Conflict, hunger and natural disasters force millions of people worldwide to leave their homes and countries to other places, sometimes very, very far from home. Recent stories of Rohingya fleeing Myanmar due to persecution and the many more seeking to enter Europe from war-stricken countries paints a picture of how grave the situation is. According to the UN, 68 million people are living as refugees or internally displaced as a result of conflict or persecution. Refugees, especially women and children, are sometimes subjected to various forms of abuse, including sexual violence. Now, I've got the Executive Director of the Hope for Future Generations, Cecilia Seno, in studio. In Ghana, her organization is the convener for civil society organizations platform on SDG 5, targeted at eliminating all forms of violence against all women and girls in the public and private spheres, including trafficking and sexual and other types of exploitation. We'll be having a conversation shortly, but first, let's hear what the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres has to say as the world marks World Refugee Day.
What would you do if you were forced to leave your home? Today, more than 68 million people around the world are refugees or internally displaced as a result of conflict or persecution. And that is equivalent of the population of the world's 20th largest country. Last year, someone was displaced every 2 seconds, and mostly in poorer countries. On World Refugee Day, we must all think about what more we can do to help. And the answer begins with unity and solidarity. I'm deeply concerned to see more and more situations where refugees are not receiving the protection they need and to which they are entitled. We need to re-establish the integrity of the international refugee protection regime. In today's world, no community or country providing safe refuge to people fleeing war or persecution should be alone and unsupported. We stand together or we fail. This year, a global compact on refugees will be presented to the UN General Assembly. It offers a way forward and recognizes the contributions that refugees make to the societies hosting them. As long as there are wars and persecution, there will be refugees. On World Refugee Day, I ask you to remember them. Their story is one of resilience, perseverance and courage. Ours must be of solidarity, compassion and action. Thank you.
Now, so that forms a good foundation for our conversation. As I mentioned, Cecilia Seno is here with us. She is Executive Secretary of the Hope for Future Generations. Thanks for coming through, madam.
Thank you.
Now, you released a joint statement with the Ghana Refugee Board.
Yeah.
But as an organization, you strongly believe that Ghana should be standing with refugees, especially in this period. What exactly do you mean when you say that?
You know, refugees are already afflicted with so many psychosocial, psychological, physical problems, traveling from their countries amidst poor nutrition, fatigue, and so many social problems. So as a country, these refugees need a lot of support. I know Ghana is doing something, but looking at some of the refugees, interacting with them who have been in Ghana for the past 20 years, either you resettle them, you send them back to their homes or their countries, or you make sure that they are part of the country.
And someone may say, we have Bujumbura, we have other settlements. Haven't we done enough?
I think we share wall with Ghana Refugee Board. And from our office, we see a number of refugees when they arrive, sleeping on the floor, some of them begging for food. Their medical needs are not met, carrying their children and their families. You see them sitting there from day to night, waiting to be even registered.
All right. So I will let you pause there because I've got Mr. Tete Paddy. He's project coordinator at the Ghana Refugee Board on the phone with us. Good morning, sir. Thanks for your time. Now, we are hearing from Madam Seno here that she's interacted with refugees who don't feel too comfortable in Ghana. They've not been integrated. They've not benefited from what they thought they will. Why is that?
Right. Thanks for having me. Yes, it's true that not all the needs of refugees are met. But I can also tell you that government and indeed the UNHCR are doing a lot to make refugees' lives comfortable as much as possible here in Ghana. There's so many programs that we put in place. We ensure that refugees have access to education. We ensure that refugees have access to health facilities. We ensure that their security needs are met. We work together with all the agencies that are responsible for these activities. And so, yes, funding is not enough to make refugees as comfortable as we would all want to. And for that reason, the World Day is held every day to raise awareness. The theme for World Refugee Day this year is with refugees. And so the hashtag refugees is trending. And the whole idea is to sensitize society, let them know that, for instance, in Ghana, we have over 13,000 refugees from over 34 different countries here with us, from Africa and beyond. And so, yes, there are challenges, but we're doing as much as we can, given the resources that we have.
Now, you mentioned that this year's theme is with refugees, and the goal is to make sure no one is left behind, especially the vulnerable. So how are we here in Ghana hoping to achieve that?
Yes, like I said, we have programs in place to ensure that we include every refugee. In fact, what we're doing now is including refugees in the national programs, the national social programs, which are aimed at ensuring that the less privileged, the less endowed are not left out. And so, for instance, people have access to free basic education. They have access to the NHIS. UNHCR pays for them. Currently, refugees are paying 50%, and then UNHCR is paying 50% of the NHIS. And even more recently, we are in discussions with government to include them in the free SHS. We assist refugees who want to attend university to pay local fees rather than foreign fees. And so a lot is being done just to bring in those that are not as fortunate as others, and make sure that they are not left out. Even though we are not providing food for refugees currently, we are still giving food assistance to refugees that we consider vulnerable on the refugee camps. And so a lot is being done, but certainly it's not enough, and it's mainly a matter of funding.
All right, I'll have you come back to you, madam. So your main focus is eliminating sexual violence, especially in conflict. And usually these people are coming from conflict areas. Yeah. What is that one thing that you get from your interaction with them?
You know, sexual violence, sexual abuse, rape affect the woman's dignity. And we are a women and children focused organization. And so interacting with them, you know, where you see men and women, definitely sexual activities take place. And these are disadvantaged women who are actually going through so many challenges, but they face some rape. Last year, we got to know that some of the refugee camps, rape has been rampant. We were on this same media platform with Ghana Refugee Board, one representative, and we had some statistics on rape last when we celebrated the World Refugee Day. You know, when rape comes, the next thing is pregnancy, and then unplanned pregnancy, and then abortion. And abortion, they will not go through the normal abortion. So you see a lot of taking drugs and things, and some of them end up dying. And so this is one area that we are looking at. I know, like he rightly said, the government is doing something, but working with refugees, a multi-sectorial approach. The government can put in resources, but there are churches who are already supporting. We can rely a lot on our churches. We can rely on individual philanthropies. And for me, we have to go beyond that. You see, when they come, I told you we share, Hope for Future Generation shares wall with them. You see them sitting outside. Even in rain, they pack their things around them. That is what we have been seeing. And you see individuals, when they cook for, you know, the normal hospitality of Ghanaians. people around cook and give them and that kind of, but there is more. And where there is rape, and a woman is raped, it affects the woman's dignity. And that is one area that we are looking at.
Mr. Paddy, some serious allegations being raised here, refugees being sexually assaulted in the country. What is your outfit doing to address that?
Right. With respect to refugees who are assaulted, I know that in the last 2 years, for instance, that has reduced significantly. But let me add that generally these reported cases of assault are between refugees to refugee sort of violence. So it's not like there's homophobia and Ghanaians are attacking refugees. So it's important that we put that in context.
Right. Okay, and so, like you said, it's on the decrease, according to you, but what are we doing to totally eliminate it? And even before that, have we even found out why refugees who are all in a vulnerable state will be abusing their female counterparts?
Well, they're the usual domestic violence issues, and what we are doing is that, particularly on the refugee camps, we have police, we have other security, we have welfare. We extend all the services that are available to Ghanaians to refugees as well. And so I can assure you that the issue is being addressed.
All right, now you've mentioned that there are 13,000 refugees in Ghana. Now, looking at what is happening across the country, recently the Rohingya issue in Myanmar, there are war-stricken countries, people moving there to Europe and countries refusing them. Are we expecting more refugees in Ghana?
Sorry, I missed the last part.
I'm asking if, based on current world events, both social and political, are we expecting more refugees in Ghana?
Well, we are not expecting more refugees in Ghana. Most of the refugees in Ghana are from the sub-region, and we are not expecting any conflicts or any upheavals that creates refugee crisis. And so, hopefully, we are not going to get a wave of refugees coming in.
And so there's been an issue of funding. I mean, you've mentioned that, and Madame Seno has said that also. So what ways are you looking at to get more funding so that you can meet this target of helping refugees and making sure they're safe and sound?
Right. It's one of the reasons why we are marking World Refugee Day. So we bring these issues to the fore so that individuals and organizations who would like to help, organizations like Hope for Future Generations, will have the opportunity to contribute. And so we encourage NGOs, such as Madame who's in your studio, to help us provide. Not just to provide assistance, but network with other organizations and individuals who can contribute.
Right. I'll still have you hold on, because the issue of sexual violence is very important worldwide.
Yes,
and,
right.
And like he's mentioned, we're having the sexual violence being perpetrated by women, refugees, by their own male counterparts. Do we know the mind behind this? Do we understand it? I mean, in terms of tackling it from the root, why do they do that?
Rape, we believe that rape is usually not normal. Where you see people, if people are even suffering, their sexual urges or their needs are still there. And so while they are in that situation, at times they use this as defense mechanism, something to compensate themselves. Because if we are all here, we don't get food, the sexual needs are still there, And so they don't only rape women, they also rape the males rape their male counterparts, which is also a big issue that we can talk about. When you interact with them, some of them will tell you it's the devil, we don't know why this is happening. But I believe that it is a way of defense mechanism, their social needs are not met, and if I have my opposite sex or whatever it is, at least that can be some sort of compensation to me. And so it's so difficult to really know why they are doing this. Yes.
Mr. Paddy, let me come to you. You're with the Ghana Refugee Board. Why has Ghana still not acceded to either of the two United Nations conventions on statelessness?
2 years ago, we were at the verge of acceding to it when Parliament had to rise. I'm sure you know that towards the end of the last Parliament, there was so much going on. Priorities in Parliament were determined by Parliament. And so it wasn't possible for us, for the Statelessness Convention for us to accede to the Statelessness Convention. But we started the process again. As you probably know, once Parliament rises, you need to start the whole process again.
Exactly.
And so we started the process again with a change of government. We're advocating with Parliament. I understand that there will be a statement by Honorable Sam George on the floor of Parliament today with respect to World Refugee Day. And so we are working together with all the stakeholders to ensure that we accede to the Statelessness Convention.
Because we are learning that currently there are some asylum seekers in Ghana who have been here for 20 years and there's been no conclusion to their issues. That's whether they're going to be repatriated or resettled. So how do you define those group of people and how do you meet their needs?
Right, let me draw a distinction. Let me try and explain who an asylum seeker is and
exactly.
who a refugee is.
Sure.
An asylum seeker is somebody who has applied to be recognized as a refugee. We take them through what we call the refugee status determination procedure, and then we grant them procedure. So between the time they apply for asylum and the time they are recognized as refugees, they are referred to as asylum seekers. And so I believe that what you are referring to are refugees, asylum seekers. Now, there are three doable solutions. First one is to return to your country of origin if the conditions are good, and it's voluntary. The second one is resettlement to a shared country. Most of the resettlement has been done to the U.S. We all know what U.S. policy is now with respect to resettlement. It is purely the prerogative of the receiving country.
Exactly.
And so to insist that refugees should be resettled by us is not, I don't think that it's a fair assumption to make. Now, the third option is locally integrating in Ghana, if they so choose to do. We should bear in mind that all these are voluntary. Now, refugees' preference obviously is to be resettled in a Western country, which clearly we cannot do anything about. Refugees usually refuse to go back or to be locally integrated because they want to be resettled.
Okay.
And unfortunately, there's not much we can do apart from advocate, but clearly it's the decision of the receiving countries.
And so while we host these people in the country, how are their needs met? Would you still classify them as refugees?
Yes, we classify many of them. Like I said, we have 13,000 of them. About half of that number are Ivorian. The rest are spread among the remaining 33 or so countries. These persons still are of concern to us, and we still engage them and try to work out one option or the other of the durable solutions available. But like I said, we cannot do much about resettlement. And so we encourage them to be locally integrated. We assist them. The Liberians, for instance, who locally integrated were issued with Liberian passports by the Liberian authorities. UNHCR and Ghana government paid for the residence permits for them. They were given a little bit of a cash grant. The NHIS was paid for. And then their refugee status was then brought to an end. So that is the option that we as a country have in terms of local integration. The other option, of course, is for them to return voluntarily to their country of origin.
As we commemorate World Refugee Day, there are those who have the opinion that, you know, if your country is struggling financially or there's war in your country and we host you, once your country is able to get back on its feet, you should go back. I mean, why are we putting that to the refugee to decide? What would you like to tell people who hold that opinion?
Well, the UN Convention clearly states that return is voluntary and should be voluntary. And there are reasons for that. People go through a lot. Sometimes they believe that they can be harmed if they go back because certain people are in certain positions. Apart from that, people get so traumatized that they don't even want anything. They don't want anything that will remind them of what they've gone through. And so for that reason, you cannot force refugees to return to their country of origin. The most you can do, or the most we can do, is to assist them to locally integrate, if that is the choice they make. But clearly, the UN Convention states that the solutions, the durable solutions, are voluntary, and that is what's true.
All right. And are we doing well with local integration, from your point of assessment?
Well, we locally integrated, and we are still in the process of locally integrating Liberians. About 3,000 of them opted for local integration. Most of them have been locally integrated. We're still working on the rest. We also have Togolese refugees who we may be offering local integration to in the near future. All
right. And to you, Madam, Hope for Future Generations, you are an NGO deeply concerned about sexual violence, and yesterday we commemorated International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict. So the issue of sexual violence among refugees has come to your attention. So looking forward, what are we doing to eliminate, make it a thing of the past?
On our part, or on the part of civil society organizations, we're looking at going to be working more with DOFSO, who actually has statistics and know what is happening, to do a lot of sensitization and education, and also empower the women to report whatever it is, because if you don't get the report, if people don't tell you what is happening, you can never take action. And so our focus is actually making sure that whoever does that, apart from the education and letting the women and the men know their rights, also report whatever you have, and then the person is taken through the laws of the country to deter people from sexual abuse, because it is not the
Do you
right
also
way.
report issues of transactional sex? Because sometimes these women don't have any money, and so there's a need to survive. Is it only a case of domestic violence, or you also have issues of transactional sex?
We have issues of transactional sex. As you know, if a woman is hungry, the child is hungry, and someone say, let me have sex with you, and let me give you 20 cedis. The woman, that is where we are very particular about letting the women and the young ones know their rights. And then the consequences when you are having that kind of unprotected sex. You must know that the consequences are more than just the 20 cedis. And so, as an organization hosting the SDG 5, which is actually looking at so many things on women and men, we are really making sure that people are empowered and then they stand on their rights.
Thank you so much for coming through. Cecilia Seno is Executive Director of Hope for Future Generations, an NGO. And we also had Mr. Tetapadi on the line. He's with the Ghana Refugee Board, even as we commemorate World Refugee Day.